Daniel Carter was used to being invisible, at least when he wanted to be. As the CEO of a nationwide restaurant chain, he could command boardrooms, negotiate million-dollar deals, and make headlines. But here he was, wearing a faded polo shirt and an apron, pretending to be a new trainee in one of his own restaurants. It was part of his annual undercover routine, something the public relations team framed as getting in touch with the heart of the business. But Daniel's true reason was simpler. He wanted to see what life was like for the people whose names never made the company newsletter. The dishwashers. The cashiers. The servers who smiled through double shifts. That evening, the dinner rush had finally faded. Chairs scraped against the floor, customers lingered over last sips of coffee, and the kitchen crew began their slow cleanup dance. Daniel was scrubbing down a counter when he noticed her. Her name was Claire. Mid-20s, quick hands, quiet voice, and eyes that didn't quite match her polite smile. She'd been working non-stop since he arrived, darting between tables with an efficiency that made the other servers look like they were wading through mud. Daniel had already noticed she skipped her breaks. And now, from the corner of his eye, he saw her slip 2 leftover bread rolls into a small cloth bag tucked inside her purse. For a moment, he froze, not because it was theft, but because of how careful she was. She glanced over her shoulder twice, moving with the kind of hesitation that spoke of necessity, not malice. When her shift ended, Daniel quietly followed her out the back door. She walked briskly through the dimly lit parking lot, then down the street toward the bus stop. But halfway there, she turned into a narrow alley behind the supermarket. There, under a rusted metal awning, was a cardboard shelter. Inside, a thin man in his 50s sat on a folded blanket. His beard was graying, his hands trembling slightly as Claire knelt and handed him the bread rolls. "Dad, you have to eat," she said softly. "It's not much, but I'll bring more tomorrow." Daniel felt his chest tighten. The next day, Daniel arrived early, determined to understand more. He struck up casual conversation with Claire during prep. She was polite but guarded, giving short answers. It wasn't until later, when a broken coffee machine forced them to share a long wait in the storage room, that she opened up. Her father had been a construction worker until an accident left him with a shattered leg and chronic pain. The medical bills swallowed their savings. The landlord evicted them. Claire had been working 2 jobs to pay for a small motel room they shared for a while, but when the rates went up, they had no choice but to live on the streets. Still, she refused to put him in a shelter. "They're not always safe," she said, looking down at her hands. "And he's all I've got." Daniel didn't know what to say. In his world, problems were solved with budget approvals and decisive memos. But this was raw, unfiltered survival. The following weeks tested them both. For Claire, the challenges piled high, a late bus causing her to miss part of her shift, a warning from the manager about bringing personal problems into work, her father's worsening cough. She still slipped leftover bread or soup into her bag each night, sometimes skipping her own dinner so he could eat more. For Daniel, the challenge was restraint. He could easily write her a check or offer her a job in corporate. But if he revealed who he was too soon, would she even trust him? Then one night, a storm rolled in. The rain was relentless, pounding against the windows as the dinner crowd thinned. Claire's phone buzzed, and Daniel caught the way her face drained of color. Her father had been taken to the hospital after collapsing near their shelter. She asked the manager if she could leave early, but he refused. "Short-staffed," he said, and the orders still coming in. Daniel felt his patience snap. Without thinking, he stepped forward. "I'll cover her tables," he said, his voice carrying a tone that made the manager pause. "She needs to go." The manager, taken aback, reluctantly agreed. Claire whispered a thank you before running out into the rain. The next day, Daniel visited the hospital. He found Claire in the hallway, looking exhausted but relieved. Her father was stable, though malnourished and fighting pneumonia. She seemed surprised to see him there, holding 2 cups of coffee. They sat on a bench, and for the first time, she smiled, not the polite, professional smile, but one that came from somewhere deeper. She thanked him for helping her leave work. It was then Daniel finally told her the truth. He explained who he was, why he'd been working undercover, and that he had the power to change her situation, not just with money, but with a stable job for her and medical care for her father. At first, she didn't believe him. When she realized he wasn't joking, her eyes filled with tears. She told him she wasn't looking for pity. "I'm not offering pity," Daniel said quietly. "I'm offering a future." Over the next few months, Daniel made good on his promise. He arranged for her father's treatment, helped them move into a small apartment, and offered Claire a role as a trainer for new staff, one that paid double her old wage and came with benefits. Claire accepted, but not without a condition. She wanted to keep working on the floor part-time. "It keeps me grounded," she said. Daniel smiled. Fair enough. They stayed in touch, and their bond grew. It wasn't romance, not yet, but it was something powerful, mutual respect built in the fire of hardship. Years later, when Daniel told this story at a company conference, he ended with a simple truth. Sometimes the smallest act, 2 pieces of bread, can reveal the biggest heart. And sometimes, the greatest success isn't in profit margins, but in the people whose lives you choose to change. The crowd stood and applauded, but Daniel wasn't looking at them. He was looking at Claire, sitting in the front row, her father beside her, both smiling. And in that moment, Daniel knew, the undercover mission hadn't just made him a better CEO. It had made him a better human being.